Peggy for today. The lesson, come to your back. You're going to explore things that are a little bit about folding and rolling. Maybe be like a baby again. It comes from Alexandria and I. It's lesson 348. Arm and knee on the diagonal. Enjoy. Alrighty. So as you're lying on your back, resting, notice your contact with the floor. And then quietly, let's draw your attention to an area. It's an area about 2 inches below your belly. And we often give this many names. Different cultures give it many names. It represents the seat of your power. And when we're aware of it, it often expresses itself as diaphragmatic breathing. So about 2 inches below your navel is the area we're speaking of, and some of you will recognize the names Chi. You have a question?
Sorry, below towards the floor or below towards the feet?
Put your finger at your navel. And now walk down 2 inches into your lower belly towards your pubic bone.
Towards feet, okay.
Yeah, and that's in the ballpark. It's the ballpark, okay? And throughout these few moments, we're going to begin with this exploration. You can place a hand there to feel, but make sure if you use a hand, your elbow is resting on the floor so that you don't have extraneous work. And for some of us that don't have really long arms, it doesn't have to sit directly over the center. Your hand can slope off closer to your pelvis, your hip. You're just going to listen. Many of you might know the names your Chi, your Ki, your Prana, your Hara, your Dantian, or Tanden. Each culture uses a different name that expresses this area. That is where our potency and vitality comes from. So as you begin to breathe, and don't try to work at the breathing, but just listen to your natural breath that breathes you. An inhalation is coming into you, and then you go into an exhalation. And you listen if in this area of your, I'm going to use the term tanden, if it moves. And is there movement forward towards the ceiling, as well as an equal movement back into the floor, that there's an expansion, that this is where the breath moves. It moves other places also. And then you listen to the exhalation. Does this area, like a bellows, draw in? And this is whether it's done quietly, almost to the point like you're falling asleep. It still is a form of this quiet diaphragmatic breathing. And then you can actively do it where you're really paying attention to filling, as if you want to allow this area to balloon. And then you can actively facilitate drawing your belly a little inward, like the bellows, to help the exhalation. So we've done many different breathing lessons where you are actively working this area. And then I just say, once you become aware of it, you move away from actively working. You just listen. So in one of the lessons, and I'm just introducing the idea of the tanden, which is about the breathing, what's more important is you're constantly listening to this breathing, the tanden, the gentle, slow, easy movement. And as the actual movements come into the equation, changing position, actually listening to the directions of the movements of the lesson, listen if it interferes with the tanden. And if it does, go back to listening to the tanden. Recapture that awareness, that attention, and then return to the movements. You've heard us say all of the time, the movements are not the primary importance. They're the means with which to find you. But you'll notice that sometimes the breathing gets interfered with in place of the movement. So you just keep revisiting my tanden. Now, very slowly, I'm going to ask you, while you can pay attention subtly to your tanden, to come, but hear the position first. You're not going to stay there long, but I want you to come up to sit. And when you do come to sit, you're going to bring your legs so that the knees bend out to the side and the soles of your feet come towards each other. But they're going to come towards each other, not to touch. They're going to be approximately 8 inches apart, one sole of the foot facing the other sole of the foot. And you bring yourself up to sit and you come into that position. And you listen to your tanden. Was the tanden interfered with, the breathing in your tanden interfered with? Or did it continue? And then when you're sitting here, you look. So you have a visual. What does it look like when I'm sitting in this position? The soles of my feet are about 8 inches apart. About. And for some, the knees are lifted higher away from the floor than others. It's fine. It simply has to do with our hips, our lower back. Some of you support yourself with your hands behind you or your hands on your ankles or legs. All of that's fine. This is just to come into the position to feel what this feels like. And then listening to your tanden, use your hands in a way that support you to lower yourself back, to lie on your back while your legs stay in this orientation. So I gave you an opportunity to not only visually see what that looked like, but to also feel it. Now, when some of you come back into this position, if it's uncomfortable, is it uncomfortable for anybody to be like this? Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and give you some supports. I'm going to get up and get some rollers. And sometimes I feel a soft roller might be a little bit more accommodating. Let's see how many soft rollers we have here. All right.
I'll take one.
All right. So
On one side.
give me a minute. I'm going to get a little bigger roller for you. Let's give you this, Shelley, and see if that's enough.
Yes.
Okay, that takes over the work. Who else needed one?
I'll take one, but I don't need one. Give it to people that need it first.
Well, so I'm looking at the distance of the legs from the floor, and let's let you lift your knees a little bit, and we're going to try that and then lay down. Is that sufficient?
That's good.
Good. So just give me a moment to get a couple more of these pads or rollers, soft rollers. We can use firmer, but let's see what we have in here. And each one of the things we'll use at times in the lesson might be in your way. So who else said you needed one? Okay, I'm just looking at the distance from the legs. I'm going to give this. So you'll have to lift up a little bit. You set that under. And
Oh, great. Thanks.
make sure that the feet are approximately, again, 8 inches. And Anita, you said you needed one, and Diane wanted one. And again, I'm Howard. I don't know if this is enough for you, Howard. Let's check. Let's check. Is that sufficient?
Keep the pad ready to go.
Good. So Howard found a way to organize where he could use it. And Diana, I'm going to give you a firmer one. And let me see, there was one more, Anita.
2 actually.
Who? 2 more? Okay. So we're going to have to use a little bit of the firmer rollers. Oh, I guess, here we can use this. All right.
I just
Who
need
else
one
am I
on
looking
one
for?
side.
Okay.
I might try one, Peggy. I'm not sure.
Okay, give me a moment. So, Anita's going to go down on that side, and on that side. Better? Peggy, did you want something?
Yeah, if you have an extra one, sure.
Let's try that one. And we're going to let you feel something too. So again, I'm spending the time to
Soft.
Yeah, but you want this one?
It's really
Yeah,
good.
but
It's a bigger one. This might be better for you.
Thanks, Art. So I don't know that I have any more stuff. Give me a moment. I'm looking. Oh, yes, I
Trying
do.
to make do.
Yes, I do.
Appreciate it.
I just had to look a little further. Here you go, Diane. Take this one. Okay? Is everybody set? Good. So, first of all, notice the difference with the support. Did resting into the support take over some of the work you were doing to hold your legs there that you could let go? That's what I want you to feel. So anytime, hopefully you're at home exploring and playing, you'll remember, what could I use that's a support that helps me be in the position without feeling the effort of working? As we begin some of the movements, maybe the roller might get a little bit in your way. You'll figure it out, okay? So please also revisit your tanden so that you keep tapping into it. Every time you pause from actively working to do the movement, listen to your tanden. That's a wonderful way to bring it back into your awareness. And now slowly, you're going to lift your left knee to come over your chest and take a hold of it just below the left knee with your right hand. That's it. Not behind the knee, just below the knee. There you go. And then soften, some of you need to soften your thumb. So you're using a diagonal. It is the right hand to the left knee. We're going to alternate from side to side throughout this, and then soften your foot, your ankle. Notice where there's any work, extraneous work you're doing, you're using. And now very slowly, in fact, you're going to listen more to the ease of a little bit of rolling. So slowly begin to direct your right hand and your left knee a little over to the left and then back through your middle to the right. And you're looking for the smoothest, easiest way of rolling yourself, which means, are your shoulders involved, meaning one shoulder might lift a little bit more, the other one will flatten, and maybe you notice it reverses. The minute you feel you need to rest, rest. Notice, is your head rolling? And is this enjoyable? And then all of you rest. Just release the knee, lay it back down in the position, if possible, unless you feel, no, I've got to come out of this position, where the knees are bent a little further out to the side and the soles of your feet facing each other are about 8 inches apart. You're resting on the outside edge of your foot, the pinky toe side, and also feel the heel, that portion of your heel where you rest. And you revisit the tanden. Now you're going to come right back and do that same movement, but let it be different. Which means as you slowly listen to how you bring the left knee over your chest in the way it's sort of organized, changes a little bit, and you reach with your right hand, thumb and forefingers together, to take a hold of just below the kneecap on the shin bone. You again start the process of rolling a little from one side to the other. And what if the outside edge of your right foot helped? In which direction would the outside edge of your right foot be more helpful? That it could actually allow the right leg to move. Maybe the right leg moves so much that the right leg could almost reorganize itself so that the knee actually move towards the ceiling. And that all of you rolled. All of you rolled. A whole organization rolling. And I see many of you are imagining. That's wonderful. When you're ready, even those of you who are imagining, go ahead and try it a little bit. Maybe even the left arm, elbow, helps you a little bit. Just feel that you could allow, and I'm sure each and every one of you feel that rolling to one side compared to the other feels a little easier for you. So the minute you feel you start to effort, or you forget your tanden, or you tense in an ankle or your toes, then you do less. And some of you might notice, especially if you have firmer rollers that were being used underneath your knees, they might get in the way. Leave that all alone and rest. And when you rest this time, you can remove the rollers if you'd like and really just give up the position. But do return to your tanden. Notice your contact with the floor. And also listen, when you go to organize yourself in such a way to remove the rollers, did you hold your breath? Or could you still be in that place of listening how you organize with your breathing, with movement, so that you didn't strain? Sometimes it could be while I'm moving the pillow in bed at night. Notice your contact. And slowly come back into the position. Soften your knees to bend. Slide your knees a little bit out to the side so that you can rest the outside edges of your feet on the floor, approximately 8 inches apart. And if you want to retrieve your firm or soft roller support, you do it. Now this time, go ahead and take your left hand to your right knee. And again, slow and easy. You're going to roll a little from one side to the other. And if you feel that the rolling isn't so simple, especially in this organization, don't strive or effort to do it. Just imagine and do it smaller. Is that rolling sensation smooth? Are your ribs, your spine, a shoulder blade or two, a sternum or collarbones, allowing, softening? Or do you feel that there's some speed bumps or potholes that are interfering? And if you can tap into your tanden, you might notice you're holding your breath when it gets less than smooth and soft. And is your head participating? Now sometimes we have this lovely desire to roll our head in the opposite direction than the leg is rolling. It's a twist. But if in fact we are asking for rolling, what would the most efficient way of allowing your head to roll? And the head is rolling not because you're hearing me say roll it, but because you feel through your spine the turning of vertebra. And after all, your head sits on top of the top vertebra, C1. And you feel, does now this left leg, left foot, especially in one direction, help me? It helps. It actually starts to come into the movement, a little bit of a pushing on that outside edge of the heel to the outside edge of the foot until the foot transitions. And maybe the knee that other knee, the left knee, starts to roll to the right as you move to the right, back towards the center, and to the left. Lovely. And then leave that all alone and rest. And you listen to your contact with the floor, and you listen to your tanden. So every time we effort to achieve something, we wind up actually shortening ourselves. The effort is expressed through muscular contraction, which shortens. So that's why it becomes so important in Feldenkrais, and then when you can allow it to integrate through your awareness developing through Feldenkrais, you can allow it to integrate into your entire life, whether it's gardening or playing a sport or attending to daily functions like laundry or picking something up or reaching for something. Now, very slowly, you're going to come back into the position where you slide your feet towards you, allowing the knees to bend, resting on the outside edges of your feet. And you'll use your right hand to take a hold of your left knee. But you'll place your left arm upward long on the floor where it's comfortable. If anybody needs arm support, let me know.
I need everything.
Yeah. Good. Let's give you support. Because you already felt when you used the support behind your knees, it gave up effort. Is that enough support, Howard? Do you need more?
More would be better.
Okay. So what would you like?
No, just use this guy. Got it.
Okay. Anybody else want arm support? Okay, good.
Can our arm be bent though?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit.
So this is about movement versus absolute. But remember movement. So now what you're going to do is you're going to continue this process of rolling. And how do you do it? Where do you initiate from? Do you initiate from the left foot, right foot? Do you initiate from the right hand? What about from the tanden? What about from the tanden? You initiate. And notice that as you roll gently, for you, each discerning when it's simple and easy versus bashing into ribs that have not been willing to soften yet. Because that will cause a grip, a hold. And notice what happens to the long left arm. If the long left arm wanted to really be a part of this, would the long left arm start to trail overhead towards the right when you're rolling to the right? And when you're rolling to the left, I almost fear suggesting what could happen. I'm starting to see it. And why do I pause before I suggest what might happen? Because some of you might go, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do, and try to effort to do it. So some of you are noticing as you're rolling to the right leg lays on the floor. The left arm starts to spiral around over your head. If we get a cramp in the foot or something like that, that's where the effort comes. There's some effort that was happening before it triggered into the foot. So rest. When you start to roll to the left, maybe you notice that the right leg tilts inward towards the left, almost lays on the floor, and that the left arm elongates so that your head rolls on top of the left arm. Rolling from side to side. That's it. You could even imagine that your left arm, whether it sails up through the air or it describes an image on the floor of outlining a circle. And think of the tanden, the rolling, and then come back and rest. And some of you might have noticed, because there's some poles in the room, and we're not using them for pole dancing, that as you were exploring, the pole was in your way. If it was, just scoot yourself further down on your mat so that as you extend your arm, you don't feel you're going to tap into the pole. And notice your contact with the floor and your tanden, your breathing. There's a specific lesson called tanden. It uses a little different movement in the lesson. And Dr. Feldenkrais says the movement is done intentionally to pull you away from paying attention to your tanden. And the purpose is that despite the movement, you can still listen to your tanden. Because the movement is the means that you find yourself and you learn more about you, versus that's the purpose. It is the means to the end. The end is self-image, finding yourself, how to better organize, so that whatever you want to do, whether it's rolling or any function in life, gets simpler and easier, because more of you, all of you, comes into the equation. All of me finding neutral. And slowly, we're going to reverse the sides, which means you slide your legs up, finding that position of your legs. Did you forget your tanden as you went to reach for your supports? Just keep reminding and have a sense of humor. The left leg now is bent out, the left knee is bent out to the side so that you're lying on the outside edge. There you go. As if the starting position was the soles of your feet are approximately 8 inches apart. And then you take your left hand to your right knee. And you elongate your right arm overhead. And notice it's a different side, it's a different arm. Does anybody need support for your arm on this side? And begin the process. You know, when I had this wonderful opportunity to travel a while ago to Oregon, and I remember seeing these black cattle that were Kobe cattle that were actually being bred for the Japanese. And they were out to pasture. The Oregonians would say, these farmers leave their cattle out to pasture and then they just send the dogs to bring them back in. So what about that right long arm? Are you leaving it out to pasture? Or is it feeling, I'm part of this movement? And you have to decide for yourself, because everybody has their own concerns and issues, if your right arm will allow circling overhead as you roll to the left, and the right arm becomes a support that your head could find as you roll to the right. And some of you might notice that as you get to one of those sides, it's sort of like lying on your side in a side sitting position. You just keep going back and forth. And then as this movement is becoming very familiar, and I see different expressions of how you want to organize with your right arm, as the movement is becoming familiar enough, recall the tanden. Recall your tanden. That is never interfered with. And you just honor where it's pleasant and nice. And I'm enjoying this, versus you have to do the whole thing. And some of you are doing a wonderful job of how you maneuver that roller. Lovely. And then leave that all alone and come back and rest. Notice your contact and your breathing. What's happening? And is it a portion of you that you notice the difference, or more global throughout all of you? And whatever you notice, that's it. That's exactly what you want to notice. So we have a couple more variations here. Now this time, you're going to return to the position. When you come into the position, you're going to use your right hand to hold your left knee. And then you're going to elongate your right arm overhead and your left leg down long.
And you just said,
Say it again.
maybe the other
I'm going to
way.
repeat it. I'll repeat. So you come into the position, you slide both of your heels towards each other, the knees go out to the side. Then you lift your left knee into the air, you cross your right arm over to hold below the knee. Now the left arm goes long somewhere overhead where it's comfortable. And you begin to elongate and lengthen your right leg down long. So you have a long axis on the diagonal. And begin your rolling. This time, the long leg, notice the heel. And keep thinking how you do this. And then I'm going to say, as you explore the rolling, what if you made a fist in your in your left hand? Make a fist so that no matter what, you have a strong fist. And then flex your right ankle so that a sense of length between your left fist and your right heel is traveling all the way through you. And they're going to be one direction of the rolling that it feels even more wow. Is it when you roll to the right or when you roll to the left? And if you feel like, oh my goodness, I want to go and I feel I've got it, and then I fall, laugh. At that moment, when you wanted to go a little further, it stopped being reversible. Some of the ribs maybe weren't giving, yielding, allowing. Maybe the head wasn't rolling freely. And play with it. And listen to what needs to happen through your spine.
Sorry.
Yeah. At this point, we sort of need like Ziegfeld Follies. That's it. Keep thinking of a long axis, and it's a long axis running through you on a diagonal. And let everything else roll. When the head rolls off the arm, it rolls to the floor. You're not holding it in the air. That's it. Lovely. And then leave that alone and rest. And some of us have traveled on our mats. I do all the time. You just but think when you go to reposition yourself, pay attention to your tanden. Because how many times do we need to scooch ourselves? Notice your contact. And you're breathing, the tanden. And the length. The whole of you. is more of you coming into your self-awareness, your image of yourself. And then the question is, where are those portions of me that I didn't have that awareness a little while ago, a few moments ago, an hour ago? Where was that portion of me? And slowly return to the position. And now we're going to reverse the diagonal. So we're going to use our left hand to hold our right knee, and we're going to elongate our right arm and our left leg. And for a few times, just have the right hand soft and open to discern, and remember the right now, that's it. So if you don't need the roller under your knee for the long left leg, you leave it. Right now, while you will have a soft right hand, also have a soft left ankle. And do the rolling. To notice, does the softness of the hand or the softness of the opposing ankle help? And just keep it easy. If you notice your mouth is closed or clenched a little bit, open it as if a sigh of, ah. Are we having fun? Is this fun? Feeling you rolling. Can you feel your skeleton? Where is it? It's becoming malleable and soft. Where is it? It's still a little clunky. And you can rest when you need. And then begin to compare making a fist, and a strong enough fist that you know I'm making a fist, but you're not going to cut into your palm with your fingernails, and flexing the left ankle, which means the toes come closer to the shin bone. To feel if the sense of creating length through me gets clearer. The fist and the flexed ankle, as if, remember Dr. Feldenkrais was a martial artist, as if he was going to make a kick with the left foot opposing someone coming at him, and a punch with his right fist, but still keep the leg on the floor. So that when you roll to one side, instead of the long leg going into the air, it's being dragged, sliding on the floor, rolling the toes towards the other side, rotating in the hip. That's it. And then leave that alone, roll back to your back and rest. Notice your contact with the floor. And I usually say to myself, I give myself permission to not 100% of the time do anything. So 100% of the time I'm not going to be aware of my tandan. But I keep revisiting it, going, pay attention. What am I doing? And that's what it's more about. Nothing is 100%. That you just keep frequenting it more and more because it becomes part of your awareness. Part of, what am I doing? There was another saying Moshe said, if you know what you do, you can do what you want. And so many times we think we know what we're doing, and we're observed and witnessed, and it's like, that's not what you're doing. Once more, come back into the original position. Bend your knees to slide out to the side. Bring the soles of your feet approximately facing each other 8 inches apart. That's all you need to do. If you need your supports again, use them. Go find them, bring them back. And now we're going to do something a little different. Similar, but a little different. So this time, you're not going to allow, so let me first bring you into position. Take your right hand to your left knee. You're going to start rolling, however, you are not going to allow your right leg to really help.
To what?
You're going to start the rolling using your right hand on your left knee to roll a little from side to side. However, you're not going to allow your right leg to really help, especially when you roll to the left. You're going to resist. If anything, you can feel the outside edge of your right foot press, but you're not going to let that right knee go to the ceiling. And you'll feel it's a much smaller movement, and it is your right hip joint we are asking to open. So you don't expect it to go far. You just feel up there. It reduces the availability of movement to the left. Can you feel that? Good. Now, let go of that. Rest a second or two. And then change over your hands. So you come into the position, you bring your right knee over your chest, you take a hold with your left hand. What you will feel is your left outside edge of your foot supporting and helping. You begin the rolling to one side. It's like a no-brainer. I can roll so much easier to one side. But when you want to roll to the other side, you will not allow the left knee to come towards the ceiling. You will resist. Maybe you use the outside edge of your left foot to lean into the floor and only go as far as your left hip opening allows. It's a much smaller movement. You just notice, oh, my left knee wants to go to the ceiling. I'm not going to let it. I'm just going to press that outside edge of the foot till that's it. I listen to the tanden, that's it. No, don't let that knee go towards the ceiling. And then you come back. So I've created a constraint. And then you pause and rest from that. Sometimes we feel like, oh, but I got the rolling going. I want to fully go to my other side. No, It's not about the rolling. It's about softening. I find so often that just at rest, imagining a lesson I did, imagining a lesson I'm exploring, especially when it's not so clear, just a little bit of it, it starts to sink into my nervous system. Maybe not right away. Maybe I wake up from a nap or the next day and I go to explore something and it's like, oh, I'm starting to understand. It takes time. And we want it right away. I know I do. And I have to keep reminding myself, slow it down. All good things take time. And slowly bring your legs back into the position. And that very first movement where you took your right hand to your left knee, soles of feet approximately 8 inches apart. What does that feel like? And begin to roll as you did in the beginning and just see what's different. Rolling to one side. Some of you might feel, oh my goodness, I can actually get the hand and the knee to the floor. And then to the other side, I can actually get the entire leg to the other side, to the floor. And you feel that that other foot, the right foot, does a dance. And it knows when to push and when to roll to the ceiling and when to roll inward towards the inside edge of the foot. And then anything you want to do with the other arm, the left arm, be expressive, play. Was the fist something that worked for you, that made it wow? Was circling the arm around the head something that made it feel, yeah, I'm completing the circle, coming home to my right, rolling to my left? And then switch over. Pause a brief moment or two, switch over, which means then it becomes the left hand to the right knee. Blessings.
Thank you.
And just notice, is this different towards the end of the lesson than it was in the very beginning? And if you really honor you versus striving to achieve the full roll, maybe it's a tiny roll where you feel, that's where my spine and the ribs closest to my spine are allowing. It means the muscles too. That's where it just feels so nice. And your head rolls. It hangs back. And then it finds a way of finding your hand on one side or your arm on one side. And then if I said, could you roll using this pattern to come up on one side? So let's do this first. Rest. See, I get excited. It's the pièce de résistance. And it's not important that it has to go there for everybody yet, but it's possible. And I suspect in some of your brains, you already sense that when I suggest it or say it, without striving to do it, because more important is paying attention to your tanden, you'll go, oh, yeah. So you rest. I'm going to describe, and then you get to decide to which side for you it seems, you feel, you sense, it's going to be my easier side. And that's where you go. You listen to your tanden. You soften your knees to bend, and you slide the soles of your feet towards each other, approximately 8 inches apart. Now at this point, you have to decide which is my easier side, because one hand will reach across you to take a hold of the opposite knee, and you will begin to roll. On one rolling side, you will feel a sense of unbelievable elongation and length. On the other side, you will feel, if I continue to do it and roll and allow my head to go more towards the floor, you might be able to come up into a side-sitting position. Keep rolling until the image gets clearer. You would notice how you would organize with a hand, an arm, which leg would sweep back. There you go. And then go back. That's it. Some of you begin to start, and then it's like, oh, no, I felt a little effort. Excellent. Go back. Keep playing so that the entire ability, should it happen in this moment or not, it's not important if it happens, but you begin to realize the availability. There you go. How you start to use limbs. But it means that both knees stay bent, and one knee is going to stay bent so that it can slide towards the sole of one foot. And then how do you use an elbow, an arm, a hand, your ribs? And you come up to sit. There you go. And then how do you go right back down the way you came up, making it reversible? And you have fun, because ideally, there is a way you could organize yourself, whatever your bias is, to come up either side in a side-sitting position. You just have to organize a little differently for it. And if you go, really, I could? You'd have to think about it. And you'd have to play and make mistakes and struggle a little bit. And then you just come back and you rest. And then either rest or roll up to sit. Or try the other side. The side that you didn't choose because you felt internally, that side's easier.
Are you saying that you, with this, in this direction, you can do
Either way,
sunset?
you could.
Oh, I
You'd
see.
have to sweep the other leg. You'd have to
You have to do
allow
something.
continuous
Yeah, exactly.
spiraling around,
Oh, I
but you're
get- I
changing
get
your
it.
orientation in space.
Yeah.
So the spiraling has to keep happening. Spirally the arm, kick the leg back. There, see?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I did it.
there you go.
Yeah.
Cool. And Diane's been in a training for 4 years. So there's a little bit more wired into her nervous system. But there you go. You see, you start to roll through your pelvis. There you go. Lovely. As you start being a kid again and having fun.
It's fun.
It is fun. As the spine and the ribs and everything starts to soften, more becomes available, more gets longer. And then we have to sort of become like the Ziegfeld Follies so that we're all doing it in the same direction. And then let it go. And in your own time, transition yourself from your back or sitting up to stand. So that you can get back and do it again. I have 15 minutes before my next client surfaces.